To do anything in life, you need a good amount of power. Those of you in this class who have made it today, there are reasons. You had the power to have your phone next to you, you set the alarm, you had the power to take a shower, get in your car, have some breakfast, and now you're here. Imagine if one of those were missing, if your alarm didn't go off, or if you looked yourself in the mirror and you didn't want to come to school the way you looked and you desperately wanted to shower, but you didn't have water, or you had everything but you didn't have a car, or you didn't have money for the bus or the train. So remember, to do anything in life, you need power. The reason why most of you in this class smoke and are okay with smoking is because you create for yourself psychologically a certain narrative, a certain set of stories. Those stories give you power. That power allows you to be okay with smoking. So remember, everything that you do in life demands power. Everything does. You want imagination to be creative, to be fertile? You need food in your belly. Without food, if your body is starving, thinking requires power. It requires energy. If you don't have food, you can't think. I come from a Muslim country where we were forced to fast from sunrise to sundown, or sundown to sunrise. What is that? Yeah, one of those, okay? Which means that sometimes we had to fast for about 10, 12 hours a day. And if you haven't had any food or drinks in your system, in your body, all you want to do is sleep. So remember, the first thing, to do anything in life, you need power, okay? Now, Alex, Joaquin, and the rest of you. Here is me. How do you define life? You wake up in the morning, events happen. Events take two forms. They are either external or they are internal. In other words, Chris is planning to come to school. He's in a good mood. He's looking forward to the class and looking at all the students. He has a car accident. His good mood is morphed into a bad mood. He calls his work and he says, I am in a pissy mood, I'm not going to make it to class. Okay? And because he's worked at this place for about 10 years, his boss likes him. And that's another form of power. So his power to want to come to class disappears. Why? An event. He calls his boss, and the boss says, take your time. And that relaxes him a little bit. Or it could be internal. And internal, it means something like this. You wake up, and for some very, very strange reason, you just happen to be in a crappy mood. And we'll talk about moods and feelings and emotions and psychology a little bit later on, maybe next week. Okay? But you need to understand, if you're talking about internal events, okay? Your phone rings, it's the picture of your companion with whom you broke up the night before, and all of a sudden everything crashes. System failure. Okay? So remember, life, the only thing it does, it creates events. For those of you who are religious, you can say, well, God's hands are everywhere. He's all-knowing, all-seeing. He's all-powerful. If your boyfriend breaks up with you, it's God's will. If your mom gets sick, it's God's will. If you come here Tuesday and Amir is dead, it's God's will. Okay? Some of us are a bit more sober or perhaps a bit more materialistic in thinking. It's society's fault. It's social media. It's this or that. The point, though, ultimately is life only creates this. Now, When you have an event coming into your life, what you have is an experience. That's all that you have. Who's that? Wendell. You look great. You remind me of my people. You look like a terrorist. Here we go. It's like eharmony.com.
To the students that's taking Amir for the first time, tell you like this. You'll learn a lot from this man. It's going to be unconventional. It's no. They don't get another teacher like that. Really. I mean, and that's my own voice, so man. Anybody bother you, never know. Okay?
I have your number, Wendell. I'll call you. It's good to see you, Wendell. Take good care. Bye. Now, experiences. The trick with experiences is the following. The more mature you are, the more seasoned you are, you will have the power to create a narrative for the story. The less seasoned you are, the more immature you are. If I look at Joaquin and say you're an idiot, he's got a couple of choices. He says, oh, he's just having fun. That's one way of interpreting. Or he can say, what a jerk. He packs up his stuff and angrily goes out, goes to the 7th floor, talks to my dean and says, this guy called me an idiot in front of 30 people. So remember, events have no meaning inside them. You and I create the meaning. Sometimes an event hits your physical body. There was in maybe 10, 12 years ago in a city in Iran called Bam, an earthquake took place, no more than 5 minutes. 50,000 people were swallowed up by the earth. They were just gone. You could say if you're religious, it's an act of God. Okay? But if you're a child and you just saw that the earth steal your parents, you're going to be pretty pissed. All right? Now remember, someone who says an act of God is a 70-year-old from a very, very religious background. That's the way they interpret the experience. If on the other hand, you're not religious, if you don't think creatively, imaginatively, you're going to start the blame game. So remember, experiences contain nothing inside them except you imposing your own interpretation on them. Okay? Now, experiences, they either give you pleasure or they give you pain. Any of you in this class who have ever had pleasure, what exactly is it that you want to do? You want to make sure this continues. And if there is a pause, you want to find a way for it to be repeated. Okay? If, for example, you are smoking, simply because your friends are, you don't have cancer, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just bored and you're silly from a shitty culture, so you smoke. All right? And you say, oh my God, so much freedom when you smoke. I love it. What are you getting? Pleasure. Do you want this pleasure to stop? Because if it does stop, you're going to be pushed back into your body, into your own, this boxed up way of thinking about things, and then you feel suffocated. So what do? You smoke again. You repeat this again and again and again and again until it becomes a habit. You do it every day from 8 to 9 and 12 to 4. And after a while, the habit becomes an addiction. Behind every addiction, what you have is a history. History gives you identity, it gives you meaning, and it gives you purpose. History gives you value. Come from a shitty background, you have a really, really low self-worth. Come from a relatively noble background where your parents always encourage you, support you, take you here, take you there. Your self-worth goes up. Okay? So for those of you in this class who've had a past, a history that's cracked, that's shattered, go back to Camille's question. Can you change it? The answer is yes. But you need to understand how addicted you are and what lives inside this addiction. Inside, you don't smoke alone. You smoke with your friends. These have been people in your life for the past 10 years. How the hell do you get rid of them? I have a tendency that when someone is no longer in touch with me, I just delete their phone number. And I go to my inbox and outbox and I delete everything as if they've never existed. And I've been that way ever since I was a kid. Okay? So if you're addicted and this addiction has given you a history and history has given you identity, meaning, and purpose, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to change anything. You need a support group. Now, some events and experiences and their interpretation are the causes pain. Okay? Now, again? Well, you bathroom like last week, Thursday. Now, we are not the sort of animals that enjoy pain. None of us in this class enjoy pain. None of us do. Go back in time. It's what we call Paleolithic tradition. We were nomads. We were naked. From the time we woke up in the morning to the time we went to bed, we were preoccupied with three things. Where am I going to get some food? How am I going to protect my flesh from this warm weather or freezing temperature? Where am I going to sleep so I don't get eaten up by monsters? Time passes. All of a sudden, you and I are able to domesticate animals, do agriculture. Now you have permanent settlement. Now the next question is, well, you need to organize your society. We have always tried to find some way to overcome difficulties, always. Okay? So just in case you have some buttons inside you, and intentionally or unintentionally someone just pushes them and you go nuts, why? You don't enjoy being around pain. That's true for all of us. Okay? Now, Alex, Joaquin, and the rest of you, what happens when you have pain? Because if you don't have power, you can't do much with this. See, if I had gone to the doctor some 2 years ago, my cancer would be stage 1, maybe stage 2. I would still have power to get rid of this disease. But when you wait and wait and wait and wait and you dismiss it, and you look the other way, and you assume that, no, you're exempt, this is not going to happen to you, then you get to a place where you say, oh, I have pain, and I no longer have any power to take care of it. Okay? So remember, the moment you have pain, you say, okay, what sort of power do I have? And you go into your, say, cabinets to look at all the tools. Some pains are physical. You have a toothache. That physical pain will create certain feelings and emotions that you won't like. You won't be able to sleep. You'll get up exhausted. You're irritable. No one can talk to you. So remember, physical pain can create negative emotions. There are some pains that are not physical. They are emotional. So this begins with a feeling. How was it? Okay, great job. This begins with a feeling. You don't like the way you feel. You don't like the way your dad talks to you, your mom talks to you. You don't like the way your instructor talks to you. You don't like the way your customers talk to you. All right? You have a feeling, and it's authentic, and it's genuine, and it's honest, and it's true. And here's the thing. You will exercise whatever power you have to get rid of this. Okay? That's why I keep telling you guys, from an immigrant perspective, you are young, you are dreamers. You assume that you're going to be 20 for the rest of your life. That's not the case. Soon you'll be 35, 40. Psychologically, biologically, you will demand different things from yourself. And if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the power, you won't like yourself very much. And other people won't like you. And you won't like your life. Now, when you have a pain in your system, whether physical or emotional, what is it that you're experiencing? Some sort of a disturbance. The waters are no longer calm. As you're eating food, you keep thinking and feeling about this. Okay? So remember, none of us in this class enjoy being disturbed. So when Camille or someone asks, can we get rid of trauma? The answer is yes. But do you have the tools to live, to be intimate with pain? And for most of us, the answer is heck no. Okay? Now, what is it that you do when you have a feeling that's negative? You try to exercise power to overcome it. Okay? At first, when there is this thing called disturbance, you get a little confused. Why the hell is this happening? You begin to ask a lot of questions. Okay? You want to figure out what lives under the hood so you can figure out why your car is not running, why mentally you're kind of just getting stuck. When you realize that you can't do much with this, you don't have the resources, you're not listening to your mom or your dad, your boyfriend, whatever the case may be, you begin to experience frustration. Remember, no one goes from point A to trauma, point B. It doesn't work that way. Behind every trauma, there is this complexities of events and emotions, all right? So you have frustration. Now remember, you had the pain. That's disturbance number one. Now you're also frustrated, disturbance number two. Now you got to deal with two things. The fact that you feel crappy and this pain isn't going anywhere. Okay? When frustration lives inside you for a while, then you're always restless. And that creates for a very, very anxious human being. So now you got issue number 3. Okay? Now, for those of you who want to overcome this, you got to backtrack all of that. All right? Now, so you have the pain, plus the frustration, plus the anxiety. And now what you have is upset. Remember, as this continues, snowballs, you begin to have less and less and less power. Which means the following. People will be able to poke at you at all times. You'll explode all the time. And if you're a smoker, you'll begin to smoke all the time. Now, the other thing you need to understand, because you and I are social animals, we live amongst other people, you will try your best to make sure you put your best face in society. And now you have another issue. Deep down, you really want to scream, but you pretend that everything is okay. Not only are you carrying all the stuff inside you, but you must also protect your social image. That's a lot of things to carry. All right? Now, at this point, you have basically zero power. Zero power. Something really, really interesting is going to happen. You're going to feel a little sad. Because there isn't much you can do with any of this. You're going to feel a little sorrow. From sadness to sorrow. You're going to feel a little helpless. You're going to feel a little despair. And then you're going to be depressed. Okay? While you are depressed, if you have kind of been socialized relatively well, this depression goes all the way to here to you being upset, and it creates rage. And you want to get into a fight with someone, man. You're just angry as hell. And this is the reason why anger is so important, because it gives you power, the illusion that you have power over all of this. Go back to the story of Mike Tyson. Okay? In his prime, no one could stand in the ring with him for more than a couple of rounds. Impossible. It wasn't that he was a great boxer. He was a great boxer, no doubt. But there was so much anger inside him that every punch carried a traumatic history. Okay? Do you have any questions? Tenzin?
These kind of stages, is there any possibility that anyone from outside like you have here and give you power
To help you, you said?
even though it's at a state of rage?
Okay, one of the things about sadness, sorrow, helplessness, depression, or what is this called, despair and depression, is that as you move into these stages, this is your world, and you have 10 people in it. It could be your brother, your mother, your father, your friend, doesn't matter, okay? As you become sadder, more sorrowful, more helpless, from 10, your world reduces to 5. As you become in despair, you have 2. In depression, you have 0. You don't have the capacity to listen. You are not reachable. Now, remember what happens in depression. You want to get out, and you do. You will do whatever you can to get yourself off of the bed. Okay? Go for a walk. But this now does no longer live inside your mind, it lives inside your soul. It is who you are. And remember, depression is not the outcome of 1 or 2 days. Very much like any other kind of addiction. It has gone through all this process to ultimately reach addiction called depression. And one of the things about addictions is that you keep repeating the same patterns in thinking, in feeling, and ultimately in acting. So not only does your mind only have one path to go, emotionally you can only feel one way, and physically you will only go one direction. Now, when you become in this place in a depressed state and you have zero in your life, because that's what happens. You have nobody. You got to figure things out on your own. You will not have the capacity to love, to trust, or to have faith. Everything goes out the window. There was, and Chris knows this much better than I, there was a show on TV called Little House on the Prairie. I don't know if you guys know that show or not, but and I forget the names of the characters, but I think in one of the last seasons before the show got canceled, the father has a young son, and apparently he's become addicted to cocaine or something, some form of drug. And he's tried many different ways to kind of cure his son of this particular disease. And ultimately, he is told by this man that there is only one thing you can do. Tie his hands and his feet to the bed. Give him a kiss on the forehead. Lock the door and stand outside. And the doctor tells this father, you're going to hear your son screaming. Do not allow your blind parental love to overcome you. It'll destroy him. Summon up the courage to stand and just hear the screams. And that's exactly how the show ended. He locked the door and he stood out and he just heard his son scream.